I'm Ricky Hooker from Expandly. I'm going to talk a little bit about account management agencies and how Expandly can help to grow the sales of account management clients. An account management agency is a business that handles the enhancement and improvement of performance of online marketplace sellers, for instance, Amazon sellers. They do this by professional activities that will improve the rankings of listings and otherwise enhance the sales of those particular products online. That could be through online optimization, keywords, A+ content, improving photography, as well as other activities which would otherwise help the business who sells online to be able to improve their sales. Well, there's hundreds of thousands of different of businesses that are selling online on online marketplaces. And so to enable some sellers to get an edge on their competitors, they might then choose to use an independent agency to improve those listings. The benefits of using them are that those particular businesses are extremely focused on the optimization of the listings and otherwise growing sales, and they're experts in their field, so they generally have much more experience in terms of improving online sales than perhaps the seller might do, especially if they're selling on different marketplaces. Well, if a seller is already having some success selling online in their home country, the country where the business is owned, then it becomes a natural progression to think outside the borders of that particular country and to sell abroad. Well, that's an exciting prospect because you can use the same products that you're selling initially. You don't have to develop new products, but what you can do is find a wider audience abroad. Now, the first things to work out when you're selling internationally are the compliance regulations relating to the particular countries you want to sell, and that might be product regulations, that might be label compliance, that might be tax regulation, and any other compliance-based activities that would allow you to sell in those particular places. So the first thing to do is to become compliant to be able to sell. You need to be ready to decide whether you are going to register as an entity or whether or not you can do that remotely from the country that you sell in. Make sure that you're up to speed with the compliance pieces, and then you need to make sure that your product itself is ready for market. There might be ingredients and things that might need to be shown differently in different countries. There might be some claims or things that you've got on your product packaging that you're not allowed to have internationally, and of course then you'll need to think about translating that packaging label to make sure that it's compliant with that country. So the first thing to do is to understand the scope of the market and then become compliant to sell there. Well, I mean, that could be as elastic as the agency or the seller wanted that to be. The agency could entirely handle the expansion element of that for them as part of their service. Certainly, there's agencies that have that as a specific vertical channel of the growth services that they offer to sellers. Or it may well be that the seller's already started that and they need some resource to be able to manage what those listings look like and to optimize it. So that can vary hugely depending on the agency and the seller. Well, Expandly is a tool that is a turnkey solution to taking e-commerce trade internationally. It's specifically designed to allow a seller to manage their listings and optimize their sales internationally. And it does that through handling the compliance and setup, initially managing the tax compliance elements of gathering where those sales are or what's liable for sales tax in those particular countries, managing any other regulatory fees that may be required within those countries, like collecting the sales data from the marketplaces. So for an agency and the seller that agency is representing, Expandly is a turnkey tool to allow that seller to access new potential buyers internationally. Yeah, so where an agency has a specific functionality, which is very common with account management businesses that are focused on holistically growing the sales of their client. One of the aspects of that might be international trade, because that's one element of growing your business, and one element of growing e-commerce trade. When it comes to, for instance, an Amazon opportunity, once there's been some success in a home market, the very natural next step is to take those listings and add them onto Amazon marketplaces internationally. So in terms of examples of how that's done, Amazon is the software, SaaS software-based tool that many agencies use to be able to take their clients abroad. So they can use that themselves to manage the listings, or the client can handle those listings and they can optimize them for them. Well, yeah, I mean, the success of an agency working on behalf of the client is growing the sales. So fundamentally, that agency is succeeding where they're giving their client a trajectory of growth on their listings. They're selling more. So where there's additional channels and marketplaces, different countries, for instance, different marketplaces that those sellers are selling on, then those elements need to be managed. There's more, it's crude as for billable hours, or there's more functionality that's required to be able to do that. So you're widening the kind of horizontal spread of activity that's happening on behalf of that client, and therefore the amount of time and energy that's spent on that. And you're also giving a disproportionate opportunity for growth for the client as well. Well, Expandly is a SaaS tool. It's on a subscription basis, and it works through bundling countries. So the first thing to do is to run some optimization testing and do some feasibility studies to understand on behalf of the client what the scale of the opportunity is in that country, how congested those particular products are, what kind of price point they're being sold at, what type of marketplaces they might want to go ahead and sell on. So that might give the seller the opportunity to see the potential reward that would come from moving to an international market. From that point, with a subscription to Expandly, it's simply a case of uploading those SKUs to become compliant with a particular country, getting registered for taxes. Initially, there's a few weeks that are involved in the onboarding process of becoming registered for taxes. And once that happens, it's simply a case of using Expandly to manage those listings on the marketplaces that the sellers are on. Well, the unique thing about Expandly is that it's a one-stop shop, turnkey solution to be able to expand. So for the agency, well, that's highly attractive because one fixed fee, they're not having to deal with multiple different agencies for compliance and for listings, for translations. All of that sits in one place. It's very, very simple for them to see a centralized picture of how the seller is succeeding overseas. From an individual seller's perspective, again, they've got one point of contact. They've got one place to be able to manage what's going on with their sales overseas. So if they pick a particular country to start with, for instance, an Amazon seller in the US wanting to come and sell in the UK, it's the same language, manageable time zone differences, very little French from that perspective. Once you move through the compliance stage of making your initially US compliant products label compliant for sale in the UK, for instance, you might need to have ingredients in metric rather than in imperial measurements, that type of thing. Making sure that the barcodes are compatible for the region. Once those things have happened, then there's millions and millions of new potential buyers that you can access using Expandly. Well, Expandly, when we say one-stop shop as a turnkey solution, Expandly will can actually handle the fulfilment, rework and supply of all those products from multiple marketplaces. So using our own network of warehouses around the world, we're able to arrange the shipping, the staging and the drip feeding of those goods into FBA. And the beauty of the management software within Expandly is that a lot of that stuff can happen automatically. So the products that you're storing overseas, either in an FBA warehouse directly if you're an Amazon seller, for instance, or if you're selling omni marketplace, which we'd always recommend to sellers who are coming into Europe, an omni-channel approach is essential for long-term success. Then a 3PL warehouse, which Expandly has, allows you to stage those goods in a way that you can automatically supply them through to the end buyer.